The night went perfectly. You stayed up too late, talking about the things you usually keep to yourself. And then, somewhere between that vulnerable night and the next morning, they went quiet. Not cruel, just cooler, a little further away. When someone pulls back right after a moment of real intimacy, every instinct you have says it must be about you. You lie there replaying every word, hunting for the moment you said the wrong thing. You instinctively start to shrink yourself, apologizing for things that didn't need apologies, trying to be easier and less demanding. Here is what you need to sit with. There probably wasn't a wrong thing. You didn't make a mistake. The closeness itself was the trigger. The exact warmth and vulnerability that felt like a breakthrough to you is precisely what tripped a hidden alarm in them. Shrinking yourself and apologizing won't work because you are solving the wrong problem. To stop reading their retreat as a verdict on your own worth, we have to look at the hidden biological reality of what is actually happening inside a person who suddenly disappears. Start with the body, because this begins below thought. Some people grew up learning that closeness was unreliable. To survive an environment where a caregiver was absent or overwhelmed, a child learns to turn the volume down on their own needs. They push the longing so far below awareness that they genuinely stop feeling it. Psychologists call this deactivating. As attachment feelings rise, the nervous system pulls a dimmer switch down to suppress them. In fMRI scans, emotion regions show low activation. Meanwhile, cognitive control areas work overtime. Their brain does heavy lifting to not feel what's rising. The tragedy is that the dimmer switch cannot selectively target fear. It turns down the good feelings too. Joy, tenderness, the warm flood of affection, all of it gets dampened to keep the system safe. And the cruel irony is that this biological shutdown doesn't fire when things are going badly. It fires when things are going perfectly. The closer you get, the more tender the moment, the more their old wiring registers the vulnerability as a threat. So when your partner looks calm or even a little bored while creating distance, don't assume they feel nothing. They are often feeling a great deal and spending enormous internal energy to keep a rising tide of emotion suppressed. A nervous system demanding sudden distance has a problem. Distance requires a logical justification. Since it is hard to just walk away from someone who has been kind to you, the conscious mind quietly manufactures a reason. It invents a sudden flaw. Picture a woman named Maya. 3 months in, she has a highly vulnerable dinner where her partner opens up about his father. Maya drives home feeling a claustrophobic dread. By the next afternoon, she decides he chews his food too loudly and texts too much. A small imperfection gets inflated into proof that he was never right for her. You will hear this dressed up as dating advice. Phrases like, "I'm just really independent," or "I need space." Underneath those cover stories is a subconscious fear of engulfment, the deep anxiety of losing oneself in someone else's needs. Here is the relational loop. The avoidant partner pulls back, and your abandonment fears flare. You dart forward to close the gap. To them, this feels like pressure, triggering demand for distance. You reach harder, and the loop locks into place. Neither of you is the villain. You are two people trapped, accidentally using your protective reflexes to validate each other's oldest, deepest fears. One expects closeness to trap them. The other expects distance means abandonment. Both fears arrive on schedule. Breaking this requires an internal shift. Stop reading their retreat as information about your worth. That sudden quiet after a beautiful night is raw data about their nervous system, not a measurement of your lovability. It is tempting to react with the two most common impulses, chasing them to demand validation or punishing them by going equally cold. Both of those actions simply hand the steering wheel back to the panic cycle. What actually loosens the knot is steadiness. Steadiness is a way of communicating consistent presence without applying any emotional pressure to a guarded system. A whole ocean of anxious demands will always trigger their alarm. But a glass of water, given without a bill attached, offers small, consistent proofs of presence. It slowly teaches their body that closeness does not automatically equal engulfment. The language you use to do this matters. A panicked accusation like, "Why are you doing this to me?" turns them into a defendant building a wall. Compare that to the grounded truth. "I felt you step back today. That makes sense to me, and I'm still here." One demands they manage your fear, the other simply leaves the door open. There is a hard boundary here. You cannot reach into another person's nervous system and turn their emotional dimmer switch back up for them. That work belongs entirely to them. Loving someone wired for distance means offering the gift of steady patience, but it is not a life sentence to wait and avoid. True empowerment comes from seeing the cycle clearly, offering your steadiness, and watching honestly to see if they are willing to climb toward it.